What is going on? What is going on? What is going on? I hope everyone's having a fantastic day. I want to go over Jonathan Gannon's press conference because of one thing that he was talking about. And like I said, guys, before we even start this video, anything that they say during training camp, the preseason, before the regular season starts, you got to take everything with a grain of salt. So before you watch this, don't believe everything. I'm just going off of what he has said in the press conference from the other day, okay? After the third day of training camp, and how to use certain players. And just take it with a grain of salt, guys, because coaches are not going to give up their whole entire game plan and how they're and look, they're not going to say how they're using players, and I totally understand that, but at least give me some type of, if I hear something about a player that I know he could do, and I hear it from the coach, that I know we're on the same page. Gannon has questioned me from yesterday just a little bit. I liked everything else he talked about with Fletch and Brandon Graham coming back and being together on this roster for a long time, and talking really great things about Marcus Epps, and thinking that he says the Eagles are very comfortable with him, and he thinks he's a versatile, tough player, and is only going to get better as the years go on. So he talked about Hassan Reddick, okay, the usage of how they're going to use Hassan Reddick. So I'm going to read a couple things he did say. This way you guys kind of follow up on what I'm trying to talk about here. Now he says, that's what I love about camp. We're in the process of figuring out things, those things out. I can't read. Not just with Hassan, but everybody. Gannon said to the media on Friday when asked about Reddick's usage, it's a process that we take. Let's kind of see what we like, what we don't like, what this guy's good at, what he's comfortable at, what we need him to do, what looks good, that doesn't. Okay, what doesn't? Then following up to that, he says he's a really good cover guy. Defensive coordinator said he asked when it would be advantageous to not use Reddick as a rusher. Sometimes that's a matchup-driven thing. Like all overhang players, there's a reason why we do that. Flexibility within the defense, depending on what the offense does, that's the kind of space you want to play. It helps his teammates with some one-on-one battles. With most of this, I totally agree with. Okay, moving Hassan Reddick as a coverage guy, it's gonna free up these one-on-ones a little bit. It's gonna make it a lot easier for the defense, and disguising your coverages and guys interchangeable with each other in this defense is gonna make offenses kind of guess of what they're trying to do. Kind of like what Mike Zimmer did with the Vikings, hence why Jonathan Gannon was with the Vikings as a defensive assistant and knows about disguising coverages. He comes from that Mike Zimmer tree. So I definitely understand that whole aspect of that, okay? The question that I have right now is kind of what he said right here, okay? He talked about the advantages, okay, of being a rusher. And then on top of everything else, what he said before that, okay, he says we're in the process of figuring out those things about how to use Hassan Reddick. He said not just Hassan Reddick, but the rest of the team, meaning he's not just going to throw one guy under the bus, okay? Coaches are going to talk about the whole team. They're not going to talk about one player, okay? They're just not going to do that because that's what coaches do in these PR interviews from these beat writers, okay, to put in their tweets and to put on these articles they throw online for everyone to read, okay? You better know how to use Hassan Reddick. And yes, would love him as a Sam linebacker. Put him in blitz packages. Make him menacing at the line. Kind of what I want Nakobe Dean to do going into this linebacker group, okay? Reddick needs to be an edge rusher on top of it. And how many times are we going to see Reddick as an edge rusher? I hope more than being a coverage guy. And I'm not saying I wouldn't like that, because look at the tape from at least the end of his career with the Cardinals and then going to the Panthers and what he kind of did there. Primarily edge rusher in the Panthers defense last year, but he dropped in some coverage sometimes, but he was more of an edge rusher. Cardinals, they kind of were using him the wrong way for the first, I would say, 2.5 to 3 years of his career, and then really started to play very well later on, okay? And I'm not against Hassan Reddick being a coverage guy. There's no doubt about it. But the problem I have is that they got no depth at defensive end when Reddick's not there. Who's going to take his spot? Graham plays the left end spot next to Cox, so he's not switching sides. Okay, unless he's been playing both sides. I don't think so. He's been always a left end. Okay, so I totally, unless he's been playing that a lot longer than, switching sides as of right now. Okay, you're going to move up Josh Sweat or Derek Barnett, which I think Derek Barnett probably takes that spot next to Javon Hargrave. Hargrave needs to be freed up. Hargrave needs to be freed up. And if he doesn't get freed up, you have that one-on-one with that defensive end to that tackle. And you got to get the job done. We need that edge rush this year. I mean, Hargrave, if there was at least somewhat production on that side, okay, at least a little bit more production that we were given, he would have been in double-digit sacks. I still think Javon Hargrave's going to get an extension by the middle of this year or the end of this year or next offseason, whatever the case may be. I don't think Javon Hargrave is hitting the market. There's no way that the Eagles are losing 2 defensive tackles after this year. And you're just going to throw in Jordan Davis and Milton Williams. It's not going to happen. Not going to happen. You're not losing 2 guys. Okay? That's the only thing I'm kind of worried about. This is a guy that had 23.5 sacks the past 2 seasons. Okay? There's no excuse. If he has under 10 sacks this year, I blame Jonathan Gannon for all of it. So I understand in that aspect because it's so early in training camp, they're still trying to figure things out. But this wasn't a guy off the street that you signed. This is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. Okay, one of the best. Okay, 2017 draft, he was drafted the pick before Barnett. He came here for less money, where he could have got paid so much more. He wanted to play in Philadelphia so bad. He played at Temple. He knows the fans. He knows the city. Okay? He has got to have 10-plus sacks this year. Like, look, there's some players I'm looking at on defense. Like, number one, what I'm kind of looking at with this whole defense before we start doing this, the scheme or what the case may be, okay? I want to see if you have a 4-man pass rush for what you have with Haason Reddick, Hargrave, Fletcher Cox, and Brandon Graham. Okay, just your starting 4. Take Haason Reddick out of that to be a Sam linebacker. And look, it might come hand in hand, okay? Because if Reddick's in coverage or he's in a blitz package and he's just menacing at the line of scrimmage and he's ready to attack, then I guess I have no problem with it. But taking him out of that defensive end role, and Gannon just saying that he doesn't, like, he's not saying I don't know how to use him, but he's saying, like, we're going to see what works, what doesn't work. It's actually really scary. This team looks, defensively, it looks great on paper, even though the safety position is the weakest position on defense, but it's still solid. See what Anthony Harris does, see what Jaquiski Tartt does to maybe beat Anthony Harris out. And obviously, Kevon Wallace has started the past two days at training camp, at least the first and the third day, because of Anthony Harris not really being out and not playing, okay? It makes me nervous to hear that a little bit. And look, I know it's going to depend on matchups, and I totally get it. Every team, the matchups are going to be different every single week. They might have to, Mike Zimmer Jonathan Gannon comes from a Mike Zimmer style defense, okay? It's an attack defense. Obviously, they didn't show too much. A hybrid attack scheme defense where you're going to disguise coverages, and all those linebackers are going to be intermediate with each other, where you can move them. You're going to keep offenses guessing, okay? I totally understand that whole thing. Gannon was the cornerback coach for the Colts last year, and before that, he was a defensive assistant with the Vikings, okay? The guy almost got a head coaching job with the Vikings, the Texans, and a couple other teams, okay? So I feel like even to get into Jonathan Gannon becoming a head coach, I feel like even if he has a failed season with the Eagles this year, I still feel like he's going to have more interviews for head coaching jobs. I feel like it actually might happen. And if he plays really well, I feel maybe we still lose him anyway, regardless. So it could happen. It doesn't matter how many more years he has left on his contract. It doesn't really matter at all, because if they get an opportunity, they're going to try to take it. And obviously the Eagles will owe him money out of their own pockets, if they go to another team. That's just how the business works. Like I said, take this with a grain of salt, guys. This could all be smoke. This could be a whole smoke screen. If this guy hasn't watched tape on Haason Reddick, Jesus Christ. You didn't pay him that much money. And then, look, it was a good contract. It was a mid-tier, very good contract. Came here for less money. Could have went somewhere else, okay? So you take Haason Reddick out of that defense. If they use him more coverage, it might be a little bit of a problem, depending if that secondary can compensate for not having much of a pass rush. Okay, because I'm not trusting Derek Barnett on the edge, and I feel like Derek Barnett will be over Josh Sweat. You know, I just feel like I don't know. I could be wrong. You know what I mean? I hope Josh Sweat gets more chances than Barnett does, so I totally understand that. But taking Reddick out of that edge is, I'm telling you right now, I think they have enough linebackers. I'm not saying they don't put Reddick at Sam linebacker. They don't put him in blitz, you know, they don't put him in coverage. They don't put him in blitz packages or anything like that. I feel like they will, but you have to compensate that position. That's why I wanted more depth at defensive end, to sign a Clowney or to sign somebody, okay? Even getting, I forgot, it just put my mind, but just somebody just to take that spot, at least is somewhat productive, just to put, you don't need any high tier type defensive end to sign here, just somebody that you could either trade for maybe a draft pick, or somebody that can, you know, in case Reddick is in that spot, you sign him and at least have some type of, you have versatility where you could not put Reddick at edge as much, but I don't want that. I want Reddick more as an edge rusher this year. I think we have more reliable and capable linebackers to get the job done in whatever style of defense that Jonathan Gannon is going to bring this year. Okay? I think that Kobe Dean's going to have a fantastic year. Davion Taylor has a damn chip on his shoulder from what he showed us last year and got hurt, so he's starving to come back into that starting role. Kaiser White has played inside, outside linebacker, can cover, okay? So you have a really good linebacker group. Not a lot, and TJ Edwards has been, you know, an undrafted guy, and TJ Edwards, you know, that showed flashes over the years and probably could have been a better player today if he actually had the chance earlier in his career, and they never gave it to him. There was way too much veteran favoritism on this team when Jim Schwartz was here, and that's been the biggest problem, okay? Our problem right now is we need to blitz more. We need to stop doing this soft zone coverage. Stop being cautious. Start being more aggressive. Stop being a passive defense that just lets these receivers and tight ends off the line. That defensive line has got to work this year. The first thing I'm looking at is a 4-man pass rush. Can they get it done without a blitz? And if they can't all year, and I'm going to count how many pressures this defensive line gets per game. I am actually going to count. With this defense that you have right now, you should be well over 45 sacks. Not even kidding. That's how good on paper this team is right now. Now it's up to the coaches. There are certain players on this team, like Fletcher Cox, like certain guys I'm going to be looking at and being like, you know, I know Fletcher's going to be here next year, but I have to see what he can do. You know what I mean? I got to see if he's back and he's ready. Is he's going to be back to prime, you know, prime Fletcher Cox, which I don't think is there anymore, but somewhat as being a role-playing defensive tackle and obviously still getting paid a good contract, $13-14 million fully guaranteed. So I totally understand that. Okay, you guys get what I'm saying here? Like I said, you take this, before I end the video, take this with a grain of salt, guys, because the coaches just say stuff to say it. You know, they're not going to put up a blueprint of what the Eagles are going to do defensively in every specific player, of what they're going to do. You know, if he says that they have to look at tape, they need to see what he does, what they like, what they don't like. You know what I mean? Like, you should already know. Like, this isn't a guy off the street. Like, you signed this guy to a pretty good contract that came here for a lot cheaper, and don't tell everybody that you don't know how to use them. Okay? You know how you're going to use them. I hope that's the case. I'm hoping this is just a lie. Okay? But I could be wrong at the end of the day. I'm wrong sometimes. But I always look into these things. What coaches say, all these different things that makes no sense. I can tell when it's a lie. I can kind of tell when, like, he's trying to be neutral about it and not really spill anything. You know? So I totally get that. But other than that, guys, pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think about that whole entire thing of what Gannon said about Hassan Reddick and how to use him, and, you know, seeing what he could do, what he can't do, and all just kind of weird, just a little suspect. That's all I gotta say. But other than that, guys, pretty much it. I will see you guys on the next one. SHAKESQUAD up, follow. Peace out, guys. Peace.